Rev up your engines. Today, we've got a real mystery. A nice Toyota Tundra V8, but it had a whole bunch of trouble codes on it. The original owner, he takes care of it, changes the oil regularly. You can see it's nice and clean. And this thing was made in San Antonio, Texas. But it had all these trouble codes. What's up? Got a brand new battery from AutoZone Duralast. He erased the codes, but he's worried about there's something wrong with it. So, we're gonna take it for a ride. And we're gonna run it pretty hard. We want to really strain it because it had misfire codes and stuff. Start her up. And we'll take it for a good spin about half an hour. Because when vehicles have problems, you want to put them under a heavy load, hard acceleration and stuff. Often they'll only act up when they're really being pushed hard. So we're going to push it. But not here in a little neighborhood. We're going to go out to our little drag strip. I noticed it's shifting like a dream. It's running quite well. After all, for Toyota, it's only got 80,506 miles. That's not much. I noticed the suspension's totally normal. Like I say, when it shifts gears, see, it just shifted gear. You can't even feel it. That's working like a dream. And it sure doesn't feel like it's misfiring right now. These are well-made trucks, and it is a 4x4. Notice it's pretty quiet. It's not like a Ford where you hear everything humming in a four-wheel drive. Take it for a run on Tobacco Road here. Nobody's coming now. Sounds good to me so far. Let's take it to our little drag strip here. We'll slow down so we won't climb up that guy's butt. And looking in the back, there's nobody coming, so we can stop here. And, okay, let's see what it does. Woo, it peels out. Now you see the traction light spinning because on one of these, if you take off too fast, the traction control will turn on and eventually stop it. But you notice, it did let it peel it out. So, hey, to me, this thing's running like a top. I don't feel any misfires, no hesitation. You want to pass somebody, you floor it. Listen to that sweet V8. I mean, this baby's running like a top. But you never can tell. So we're going to drive around about half an hour. Start, stops, drive it rough to see if we can make it do anything bad. I mean, the only thing I hear is the noise from the tires because they're relatively aggressive tires. So they make a little bit of noise, but that's about it. I don't hear anything wrong. Okay, now after half an hour, we're turning back to the house. And I have to say, if I was checking this vehicle out for somebody to buy, so far I tell them to buy it. I can't find anything wrong. So we're going to get my giant scan tool. We're going to go all through everything. But idle smooth, doesn't make ticking noises or anything. So, hey, I want to see what the machine says. So on goes the monster machine. Here we go. Green lights on. It's starting itself up. And we'll see what this autel has to tell us. Sending units plugged into the dash. Turned on, not running, but the idiot lights are on. So here we go. We're going to do diagnostics. Toyota. We're going to do standalone diagnosis. Read the VIN number. 2016 3URFB V8 engine. Okay, a full topology scan of all the CAN networks, so here we go. All right, while it's doing its thing, we'll look around. Still in excellent shape. Nice big truck, lots of space. Look at the room in the back. Everything works as far as I can tell. The computer says there's 9 codes, so let's check them out. Okay, lost communication with blind spot monitor, gateway module, blah, blah, blah. Well, I expect that. Because he had a problem with a bumper hitting something, and all the sensors aren't connected here anymore. You can see stuff's just kind of lying around. So I expect that. I just ignore that. ACs, but they'll come back because the sensors, he admitted, aren't connected, half of them. And that's probably got a triple bunch of other codes too, as we're going to see. Okay, the TPMS, tire pressure monitoring. Well, I figured that had a problem too because he's got 2 spare tires on this thing where he rotates his tires around. And of course, the machine isn't going to know what tires where when you do that. Data from transmitter 2, 3, and 4 isn't even received. What I'm talking about, he's got a spare and he's got another one of these too. And he rotates the tires around, so he doesn't care about the TPMS. He uses tire gauges. I said we'll check out saying about the ABS, and that probably has to do with the sensors that aren't hooked up either. It's acting up because there's a bunch of sensors he's had disconnected. We don't really care about that. We'll erase them anyways, but that's not something he's worried about. He was worried about the misfiring. Last is the GPS, which who cares about that, the navigation system. But we'll see what the code is anyways, you never know. Code is rear camera disconnected, which we know because he disconnected everything on the map when he took the bumper off. Why did it have misfire codes? So let's go into the data. We'll start her up. Going to the engine and ECT, and we will look at live data. And this is where I get to exercise my brain to see what data is good, what's data bad, if there is any bad data, because it runs perfectly fine, right? And as usual, these are color-coded, so if there's red data, that's way off. Black is normal. Yes, airflow sensor's normal. Throttle's normal. It's running in closed loop. Now, I saw that there was a new battery, and a lot of times you change the battery. Previously, if there's not enough electricity in the battery, the computers go nuts because they get a smaller amount of electricity. They can trip codes up the wazoo, but this isn't the case. Because check it out. Both the long-term fuel trim, bank 1, sensor 1, it's subtracting 24% fuel, and the long-term fuel trim, bank 2, sensor 1, is subtracting 24% fuel. And when I scroll down, it says current fuel type, and it says ethanol. Now, the owner didn't even know when he bought this, but if you look closely at this gas cap, and I mean closely because it's faded away, but it says Lex Fuel E85 gasoline. That means you can run it on ethanol, regular gasoline, or anything in between, right? So I asked the owner, I said, do you run ethanol? He said, I never put ethanol in my life. It doesn't make any sense. Like today I looked when I drove down the road, and E85 gasoline was only 20 cents a gallon cheaper than regular gasoline. And the problem with E85 is this: you'll get 20 to 25% worse gas mileage because there's less energy in ethanol than there is in gasoline. Why the heck would you buy something that gets 25% worse gas mileage, and instead of paying $2.60 a gallon, you're paying $2.40? It makes no sense, right? He never uses it. His current fuel type says it's got ethanol. So, now turns out Toyota knows about this, so he's going to get a free fix. Phone out and click on it here. Fuel flex extended crank due to alcohol density calculation. The engine control, ECM, has been modified to address this condition. So they have to reprogram the computer and check all the sensors and everything to make sure that they've got squirrely. That's one reason I tell people, flex fuel vehicles, they're really complex. And when they break down, it can cost you a fortune. Hardly anybody knows how to work on them. In this case, they have had so many problems with these Tundras that they realize they got to do the software over. You can see it's kind of ridiculous because the short-term fuel trim, this one is 0.78, the 781, that's not much. That's less than 1%. It's got 80,000 miles. That's normal. But both long-term trims are minus 24.219. That's subtracting way too much fuel. And Toyota says it's a software problem. They don't have to replace the ECM. They reprogram it. As you can see here, it says the alcohol concentration estimate is 85%. E85 is called E85 because it's 85% alcohol, right? But he's never put that in. He used regular gas, and with regular gas, it's either going to be 10% or 15% ethanol, alcohol that's in it, right? So it's giving the wrong information. Now it's telling you the right fuel amount. See, it's about half a tank, and here it says 46.2% fuel, so it knows how much is in it. It's just totally confused as to what type of fuel is in it, right? Now back in the day, or if you have a non-flex fuel car, it doesn't matter because you're using gasoline, right? Well, when you start mixing them, these things are supposed to be able to use anything from 10% to 85% ethanol in it. But as you can see, it can create problems when the system doesn't work right. And believe you me, they are very complicated. Now, luckily, it hasn't wiped out the cat or anything. You can see the cat temperatures, bank 1 and bank 2. Same temperatures, and then the backside temperatures are the same, 133.8. So it hasn't ruined the cat yet. For some reason, the computer believes it's got 85% alcohol, ethanol in the system, which it doesn't have. But then the other part of the computer's working because it's subtracting, because it's giving it too much fuel because it thinks it's got ethanol, but it really doesn't have ethanol. I'm telling you, this gets complicated as heck. This is why I advise people, don't buy a flex fuel vehicle. And the guy told me, who owns this truck, he loves the truck, but he said, if I had known it was flex fuel, I would not have bought it. So the mystery is solved. It hasn't tripped the code yet for misfiring. It may or may not. It takes time for it to drive a while and then start tripping the codes, and it seems to be running perfectly fine. But that's because the computer is subtracting 24% fuel on both banks, bank 1 and bank 2, both sides of the engine. It's the V8. And as you saw from my fancy scan tool, it thinks it's running on ethanol, which is 85% alcohol, and this thing has never had it in the system. So it's some kind of a software screw up that Toyota did, or a sensor screw up too. It could be a combination. Either way, Toyota's got to fix it for free because it is a flaw. This is the reason I say don't buy a flex fuel vehicle. It just so happens that I'm one of the few honest mechanics out there, right? So I figured it out without telling them, oh man, you're gonna have to spend a whole bunch of money here and there, right? But realize one thing, when these things go out of warranty and they get too many miles, he's lucky it's only got 80,000 miles on it, right? They had over 100,000, they wouldn't fix it for free. So maybe think twice before you buy a flex fuel vehicle, even if it's a Toyota. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.